Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say at the beginning of every podcast, it's a purely selfish reason I film this podcast because I get to speak to inspirational people. And today, so excited to welcome Gareth Riddy. How are you, my lovely?
Hi, I'm pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, we just spoke before the podcast because you are an emotional laxative. That's what you do for people, right?
Fuck yeah. Exactly what I do.
So what is that? Explain to me what that is.
I help people let go of old emotional shit so they don't spray it over their lives, is essentially what I do. So I came up with my own healing modality by accident. That I was learning stuff years and years ago. I used to be a personal trainer, and I was learning stuff about getting people out of pain. And I got drawn into the nervous system and the relation between the brain and the body and how it all fires and moves and pain and all that stuff. And as I got deeper into that, I then started learning about systemic issues, so chronic health issues, and the roles of emotion and trauma in those and pain. I was like, that was good. So I really dove deep in that. And we were looking at not getting rid of trauma, not like helping trauma, however you say it, tackling trauma from a emotional standpoint, but what's going on physiologically within the system, so looking to improve communication essentially.
Yeah.
It's a very disruptive thing when trauma is unhealed. And I thought, oh, so if I can help trauma physiologically, theoretically, I can help affect how people think and feel and behave, and behavior patterns and beliefs and all that stuff. Oh, there's some shit in that. So I went on a bit of a journey, just really experimenting and playing around and messing about with myself first, just adding and lots of, I wonder. And I slowly moved away from pain and movement issues into that. And it kind of unfolded along the path. And then one day I was with a client and she's like, been a psychotherapist for years. She's like, very, good couple of decades in the psychological fields. And she said to me, would you ever consider teaching your stuff? I was like, oh. Because she said it and she had like a high regard. I was like, my God, maybe I could. And before it was just me doing, I wonder. And then because she said it, I then thought, shit, yeah, I would. So I structured the whole thing and it became its own thing. But from there, it was just me pissing around, basically. On myself first, always myself first.
Yeah. You're guinea pig, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. But that's because testing it on yourself, it works then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Normally, I'll do myself first, and I'll say to a client next day, "Can I try something?" Oh yeah, and then it evolved like that over the last few years, and it's still evolving.
Right. Okay. Because you've had your own health journey, haven't you? Did I read somewhere that you've got over quite a few health issues?
Yeah. Well, that's why I got drawn to it initially, like the health side of things. So I was never interested in personal training from an aesthetics perspective. That's kind of a byproduct of feeling better, right? So my history was I was born very premature, had to be incubated, all that type of stuff, which sets you up for some problems long term. And then ended up with asthma for years and years, in and out of hospital with asthma attacks, all that type of stuff. Spent more time in doctor's surgeries than I did anywhere else, right? So I never really played with the boys, playing football. I hate football. That's probably why, because I couldn't play it. I just get made to play with the girls and stuff. Right. So that happened, and I grew up kind of very unhealthy and unhappy, and then got into drugs, and that was a whole other story, heroin, squats, blah blah blah, and then got diagnosed with cancer when I was 24 in my throat, and yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, I once had an asthma attack where I nearly died and had to be revived. That one as well. So yeah,
you've been through the mill, mate. You've been through the mill.
I've seen some shit. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you had to get over your own trauma then as well.
yeah, well, that's what drove me, was wanting to feel better, right? Not wanting to not feel like shit, because I'm really well versed in feeling shit, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the gym was a place where all of a sudden I didn't feel this weak asthmatic person, and I started getting fitter and stronger. And there I was like, oh my god, maybe I'm not this frail person I thought I was. And bit by bit over the years, as I studied and looking at personal development and so on and so forth, it kind of just layer upon layer upon layer fell away of who I thought I was, and I kind of opened up and I just followed that path, right?
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, stress and trauma, it's linked to most illnesses and diseases, isn't it? Now they now know that.
I'd say all, probably. I mean, if
All of
not
it.
their person, then maybe their parents. But yeah, they're definitely
Right,
a
okay.
high percentage.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually quite shocking. And it's one of these things as well. Do you find people walk around realizing they don't think they're traumatized by something as well? Because sometimes we can go through life picking little things up as like bad experiences, and it does kind of sit in your body and it does alter your life in the future as well, doesn't it? About what decisions you make, and not only just your health but everything.
It's huge. Well, the trauma is essentially an adaptive mechanism, right? It's you consider it an evolutionary mechanism. It helps the animal evolve. Right? But the problem we have is in the modern world is our basic needs as a human being aren't being met, because we live in a very different environment than we're made for, right? So that in itself is a stressor. We get the fuck lot of what we don't need, also a stressor. The sheer volume of information coming in is much, much more than our primitive minds were ever made to take, right? And then you add to that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
quality of the information as well, which is fear and anger and blah, blah, blah. And all these things add up. And a big part of it is that we don't live in a world that supports natural processing of emotions and traumas, right? So stuff hangs around much longer than it should do instead of fully completing. And that's really what's at the root of the vast majority of human suffering.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, so when people come to you,
Yeah.
is it like that it becomes their story, doesn't it? A lot of trauma becomes a person's story.
It
So
does. I mean, some people love it. It becomes their label, right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So what's the first step for people that have been through? I mean, because I don't know any single person, that hasn't been through anything traumatic. Not not one
nor
single.
will you ever. Nor will you ever. We're a bunch of traumatized chimps because we're living lives we're not meant to live, right? That in itself is traumatic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and there's levels and layers, but it's weird. I noticed over the years that sometimes the biggest things can become the least impactful on people, because not always, obviously, but what happens, so a pattern I've noticed is when people have like a really big thing go on, they know it and it's obvious, and it's the pain of it is obvious, so they tend to eventually look at tackling that, right? The more harmful ones, or the more insidious ones, are the smaller ones, because we accept them as normal, and we kind of adapt, right? It's just this little moments of not feeling enough, or feeling abandoned, or feeling weak, or feeling powerless, or just maybe being belittled here and there, or not being able to express ourselves, or whatever. And all that adds up and adds up and adds up and adds up, and we adapt to that, right? Whereas if something crazy happens, that's a fucking problem. It's easier. It doesn't creep up on you, right? And sometimes as human beings, we're the most adaptable species on the planet. And that is a double-edged sword, right? Because we adapt to feeling shit very quickly and
yeah,
it becomes our normal. And then that moves again, and then we adapt to that, and so on and so on and so on. And before we know it, we've drifted so far from who we ever thought we were that we've completely fucking lost ourselves, right? Whether it be our health or our mental state, or all of it. Did that answer your
yeah,
question?
absolutely. Because yeah, I mean, fear is a big thing for people. They'll tend to hold themselves back, whether it's that new job they want to go for, or a new relationship, or kind of getting into shape if they've tried before and it's not worked out. It creates a lot of fear, doesn't it? And that fear grows massively. So it's about being self-aware, I suppose, isn't it? But it's quite hard for people to kind of admit that those small things have had an impact on them. I bet that's quite a mission to try and get them to see that that's had an impact.
I don't need to know what they are at all. The way that I operate, I just move the internal resistance, whatever it is. I'm not interested in the story. Sometimes I don't know the story. Sometimes they don't know the story. I just know where the tension and the resistance is, and then that's much easier to deal with, personally. But the big problem that we face in life is that people aren't willing to feel their emotions to their totality. So they kind of avoid it, right? And an emotion is a process. So there's a start point and an end point, right? And emotions exist to A, help us learn, and B, to kind of drive some kind of behavior. It's how we can look at it. But if an emotion is interrupted, as in not fully completed, then it still holds some kind of charge in the nervous system. And then whenever the brain logs stuff or remembers stuff or sees stuff that looks similar to that emotion then comes up again. And then as soon as that emotion comes up, you always perceive the world based on your emotions. You start to feel it, you start to think a certain way, and people start avoiding stuff. Whereas really, an emotion is meant to be completed, right? There's a point to it. So we have the fear or the anger, whatever, and then done, we learn our thing, and then we can kind of move on. But we don't, because the world isn't structured like that. And all sensory information coming
through that. That's so interesting, because I always say to people, like, we're designed to feel every emotion. And I think sometimes, if we're stressed and everything, it's like people try and put a positive spin on it. I'm all for positive and, optimistic and things like that. But I always say to people, it's okay to feel pissed off. It's okay to feel upset. It's like a warning system, isn't it? Your body's trying to tell you something.
Yeah,
but we're quick to sweep that under the carpet.
Well, this world we live in is built on distracting us from our emotions. Built on it. Right? There is institution after institution built on us not fully feeling our emotions, right? Or built on the back of us not doing that. So the consequences of us not doing that. You think like the gaming industry, alcohol, media, all these different things, right? Even our healthcare system is kind of, that's the result of us not feeling the feels, There's a lot there made to dumb us down, distract us, numb us from not truly feeling.
Yeah. Do you think men suffer more with this, more than women? Because men they have like this kind of thing of being strong. You find a lot of like men. I talk to a lot of men where they struggle to recognize their emotions.
Yeah, definitely. The good, where men do quite well, this is a broad generalization, obviously a lot of dudes don't, but guys tend to be a little bit more drawn towards a physical outlet, which is a good thing, because an emotion is a physical thing. So if they're using some kind of physical outlet, great, happy fucking days. But there is the whole kind of macho thing and not facing it and dumbing it down, and that's really kind of drilled into our society. And I do tend to see more women than men, but it is changing. I have been getting more men recently, which is great, as understanding's changing. But yeah, definitely, there's definitely more women that are more willing to look at it. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It's one of those things, isn't it, where will you say that you get more people coming to you with a health problem, or is it they come with a trauma mindset problem?
Yeah, the health doesn't happen quite so much nowadays. Sometimes it does. If people have had like one of the things that happens quite a lot is I get people that are quite maybe anxious, I guess.
Yeah.
And often people don't make the links with anxiety and having had some kind of surgery or maybe major dental work, right? So that comes up quite a lot because that puts the body in fight and flight, and if that, because you think that you cut the body open, the brain's thinking, fuck, I'm about to die, right? And that can still leave people years and years and years down the line. They don't necessarily make the links. So that's the thing that, that comes up a hell of a lot, actually. But most of the time,
Really? That surprised me, yeah.
well, if
But
you
now
think
you've
about
said
it,
it,
right?
yeah, I can see why.
You may know
Yeah.
that you're having an operation, but as far as your brain knows, it's being cut open and rummaged around it for a long time. That's death, right? That's major, major. So the nerve system is deeply
Yeah.
traumatized. Emotionally, you may not connect to it, but the nerve system is on high alert quite often, and people can have anxiety for years and years and never notice. Never really realize what's going on, but their nerve system is still trying to survive, right? Because there's trauma in the tissues. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
big, and the same with dental work, because in nature, if you lose your teeth, you're going to die, right? So that's it doesn't get much bigger of a threat than that. So that in turn sets alarm bells ringing. Sometimes those alarm bells don't go back the way they should do because we don't live in a world which supports natural processing of healing, right? Because we're go, 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 go.
Yeah.
What was the question? Yeah, most people come to me for they're kind of stuck. They're running into a wall sometimes. Maybe they're getting really frustrated in the business, or they found they've built a life that doesn't suit them anymore, and they've got that yearning, that soul thing, but there's something going on. So my job is really looking at moving the internal resistance to get people back to who they are. That's really my thing. From the nervous system, I'm not a mindset guy by any stretch of the imagination. I do talk to people about it, and I love mindset, but mindset is just a very small part of the game, right? So the totality of the human
Yeah.
experience, the mind is kind of the end of it, and only 5% of our awareness is conscious anyway, right? So mindsets
Yeah. Yeah.
really compared to your subconscious and your
Yeah.
unconscious, your nervous system.
Yeah. Fascinating. So what about I did want to ask you, we said that the nervous system,
Hmm.
does that bit like get affected by like us not breathing properly, and because if we're panicked we're constantly breathing wrong, it can like things like that knock it out as well.
What comes first, chicken and the egg, right? The question is why are people not breathing properly?
Mm.
Sometimes that can be like just a habit, right? When you get stressed, you do breathe quicker, and people have very faulty breathing
Yeah.
mechanics anyway. So that in itself, people don't know how to breathe. It's a big thing. But yes, it's calming the nervous system is super important, right? Definitely. But
Yeah.
there's kind of a hierarchy of things, right? So we've got the nervous system, how safe does the nervous system feel, and how well things communicate. Then the emotional stuff comes in, and then the cognitive stuff comes in on top of that, right? Because all sensory information coming into the brain goes through the emotional centers first, then into the cortex to make
Yeah.
a picture of the world based on what's going on emotionally, past and present, right? Subconscious. And
Yeah.
the rest of the nervous system is informed whether something is a threat or not by the emotional state. So it goes up and down. And breathing is one of the
That,
big ones.
yeah, I've recently got into the breathing thing, thinking, oh, this will be easy. And then I realised that I'd been breathing wrong for years.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just having like a few stressful years of nothing like major, but we all had a few stressful years around COVID and things like that. And it completely knocked my breathing out, and I was completely unaware of it.
yeah. The great toilet roll wars of 2020 were a stressful time, eh? My camera's there. I keep looking at the wrong bit, but there.
Yes, I mean,
Sorry, people. I'm not ignoring you. I was looking at the wrong bit. I've had switched to my phone. Sorry. Right. Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Because when you get stressed, your breathing goes. Absolutely, it goes.
yeah,
It's the big thing, and your pace quickens, right? I remember back in the day when I first became a personal trainer, looking at my camera. was when I first learned about breathing mechanics. Most people breathe from the chest and not from the diaphragm. Most of they're up here.
Mm.
When you're up here all the time, this really kind of grooves in your stress pattern. When you breathe into the fullness of the lungs, then it kicks in your rest and digest, relaxation part. But most people can't even get to that part anymore because they've been up here for so long. Like babies, their bellies move all the time, don't they?
Yeah,
Adults,
yeah.
we're like very shallow, and then the muscles adapt and brain adapts, and so long answer, yes, breathing, yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay. So that's quite a simple. I mean, it's not easy when you first start, but it's quite a simple thing to kind of incorporate into your day, isn't it? Is there
Yeah,
anything else like that you could do daily to calm your nervous system down?
yeah. So, I mean, breathing is important. I use breathing a lot, and heart coherence. They're my two go-tos, and I incorporate them as well. So heart coherence is really, really fucking important. And barefoot earthing, absolutely crucial, crucial. So things I'll consider. Should I give you a list? Things that are super
Yes,
important.
please.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah.
So one, so barefoot earthing, right? Which I'll talk about because people think I'm a bit of a fucking hippie when I say it, but I'll de-hippify that shit for you, right? So the
Okay.
Earth is a big electromagnetic ball, right? Essentially, and all life is electromagnetic in nature, and there's a constant flow back and forth between the Earth and all living things, right? The conductive nature of life. Ta-da, conduction, and all life is connected to the Earth all the time. Well, birds aren't, but when they land in the trees, then they are again. So there's always this flow of information. Right? And essentially, what we're talking about here is electrons. Um, and electrons. So inflammation is essentially an electron deficiency, right? I'm open generalizing it, by the way. You've had like oxidative stress, antioxidants, free radical damage is a electron deficiency.
Right.
Let's back up a little bit. Right, so we're gonna get sciencey here, kids. You ready?
Good,
So
good. I love a bit of science.
these are my atoms. Da, 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 da. And these are the middle of the atom. Around the atoms are the electrons. They float around the outside, right? And what happens is, just through normal day-to-day living, this happens all the time, is an atom will lose an electron. And when an atom loses an electron, the next door neighbor it'll go, fuck, I've lost an electron. I'm unstable now. Fuck. They're very sweary, these atoms. So what it will do is it will rob an electron off its next door neighbor to try and stabilize itself. And this will go on until the thing has enough electrons, or it just starts to break down and degenerate. This is what free radical damage is electrons being constantly taken. More electrons are being taken than can be given, right? So there's an electron deficiency, essentially, and the thing starts to break down and become damaged. This is what free radical damage is. So you want to see free radical damage in action, cut an apple in half and watch it go brown. That's free radical damage very quickly, right? And people age at different
Right.
rates based on how much they're expending versus how much they're taking in from electrons. And lifestyle really kind of dictates that. So if somebody's like smoking a lot, they're eating a lot of shit food, they're very stressed, blah blah, they're expending more than people that aren't. So some people can look like a shoe
Right.
much earlier than others. Right? So
Right. Okay.
earthing gives you electrons. But from the conductive nature of the Earth, you get free electrons from the Earth, as all life does. And electrons are fundamental for all life on this planet. And the more deficient we are, the more stressed our nervous system will be.
Right.
Without anything else. Okay, so that's like the top thing. So earthing, getting your
Right.
skin
Okay.
on grass or a tree or something like that is really, really important because it's part of our natural states, as all life is on the planet. Fish is earth, it's in the sea, that can be conducted. But we live in an artificial environment where we've cut ourselves off, so we no longer have that connection anymore.
Yeah.
You know, our shoes are rubber, we're in cars, we very rarely come into contact, very rarely, maybe on holiday. So earthing, barefoot earthing, get yourself an earthing mat, grounding sheet, whatever. Fundamental for all life on this planet. That's number one. And it helps you hydrate properly. So if you're
Okay.
not hydrating properly, You can drink loads of water, but if you don't have enough electrons, you don't hydrate properly. So water, obviously, number 2.
Yeah.
Breathing, really, really important to be aware of your breathing. Physiological sigh is a really good way to calm the nervous system down. Do you know the physiological sigh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
What have you got?
Tell me about that.
Okay, so the physiological sigh is a really good way to kick in your rest and digest part of your nervous system. And all you do is a really big deep breath in from the nose, as big as you can, and then a little bit more, and then a slow breath out through the mouth. So you're really overfilling your lungs, right? So like that.
Oh, right, okay, I'll try that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, like that.
As many as you can until you start getting a yawn response and start relaxing. Maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 20. Who knows? Depends on how ramped up you are. But it's a really good way to settle the nerves down in a moment. Because when you fully expand the
Right,
lungs,
okay.
you then get to the bottom of the lungs, which is where all the rest and digest part of the nervous system nerves are. I've got to take my charge on my phone flash at me. So that's kind of there. Stop fucking looking at the
Yeah.
wrong place, for fuck's sake. What did it say? Pumping, breathing, physiological signs is really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meditation is fucking amazing, but
Yeah.
if your nervous system's fucking all ramped up, it's really difficult to do. Right. So I highly recommend
Yes.
doing something like physiological signs. That's really good. Heart coherence is amazing. I like to incorporate a physiological sigh with heart coherence because it helps heart coherence work much better. So
Right, okay.
I'm going to tell you how I do that. Little treat for you.
Yes, please.
So
Yeah.
heart coherence is really worth looking into, but it's really difficult to do when your nervous system's ramped up, particularly if you have
Right,
a lot.
okay.
So should I tell you about heart? Do you know what heart coherence is? Should I tell you all about it?
No, tell us about this. I'm loving this.
Okay, the heart. So in how we develop as an organism, like how we unfold from the moment that your mum and dad first did some stuff and his sperm met your mum's egg. However that happened, may have been a petri dish, maybe making sweet love. I don't know. Right? That moment when you first started being, when you were conceived, where the cells differentiate, it's driven by electricity for the first 14 days before things start to form. So we are electrical before we're anything else. And that's the primary thing.
Right.
The thing that comes earlier will always be more impactful than that becomes later. I'm not talking about sex, right? So this is why earthing is important.
Right,
The
okay.
first organ to appear is the heart. The heart starts to beat before the nervous system's even there. So that's the first fucking thing.
Right.
And think of it like a house, right? The most important thing's going first structurally, and the least important goes in last. Right? So
Right,
foundation.
okay.
So heart happens first. Now, the heart has a big electromagnetic field. I think it's been measured up to 5 meters away from the body. There's potential more for now. It has its own set of neurons. Well, they're neurites because they're not in the brain, but they're like the same nerve tissues are in the brain and the heart. Less in the heart, but they're still there. So it has a capacity to learn. And
Right.
it has its own intelligence, essentially. You may have heard of memory transference, where people have a heart transplant and all of a sudden they take on traits of the person whose heart had, right? So very well
Yes,
documented.
yes.
Right? So it has its own intelligence in a nutshell. Now, 90% of the information between the heart and the brain goes up. So the brain is telling the heart, or the heart is telling the brain much more than the brain is telling the heart. Now, how we should function,
Yeah.
if we were living more natural lives, if the heart was coherent, and I'll explain that in a second, is the heart is kind of receiving information electromagnetically, kind of from the environment, but also about the body's internal state. And it then feeds up to and it's got its own intelligence shit, and it feeds up the brain, goes, oi brain, this is what's going on. This is stuff, right? Organized stuff, because the brain has all of the control. It controls the organs, the glands, the muscles, etc. Right? The heart doesn't have that control. It pumps and it has information. Also, it's where our intuition comes from. So the kind of intelligence hits there, and with the heart, it's very kind of yes or no, boom, 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 boom. Whereas the brain has to filter through the emotions before it gets interpreted into your idea of perception, what the world is. Anyway, so think of it like this: the heart is the CEO, the brain is the management. Right? So vision, strategy, getting shit done. Right? So this is what's going on. Deal with it the best way you can.
Yeah.
But because we end up incoherent, the heart ends up incoherent, and then the brain becomes incoherent. So it becomes more like the CEO and the manager become disconnected, and then HR take over, and HR fuck everything up, and HR make everything way, way, way harder. Like, that's kind of how we tend to operate, right? And the reason we become incoherent is because we live in a world where we're trying to dampen shit down all the time. It's like we're on accelerator and brake all the time. So the heart's going to, so it's not kind of coherent in its beat and its pattern and its electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
We're constantly doing that, and that makes the heart incoherent. And when that goes incoherent, gets scattered in terms of its communication. HR take over the show and fuck the whole thing up, and it's no fun for anybody. And of course, that organises the physiology. So heart coherence is really important. And when we are in heart coherence, we have more access to positive emotion. And when we are not in heart coherence, we tend to err more towards negative emotions and more in the threat side of things, right?
Yeah.
And positive positive emotions are replenishing in nature, right? They allow us access to our rest and digest part of our nervous system. The body regenerates, it repairs, we relax, we connect, all that beautiful, lovely stuff. When we're in negative emotions, it starts depleting. We're internalized, we get denser, we become stressed, we become disconnected, all that stuff. And when we're stressed, we lose up to 80% resources in the front part of the brain, our executive functions. Right? And up there, we have our logic, our creativity, our short-term memory, our impulse control. So we can't stop ourselves doing things we should do, or make ourselves do something we want to do. And it becomes a problem, right? Because we can't make ourselves do these things. I was going around there a bit of a fucking ramble there. The point is, a heart coherence is really important. In a fucking nutshell.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we sort that out?
I'm going to tell you. So, there's the traditional way of doing it is to just put your hand over your heart on your kind of slightly off center to the left in the upper part of your chest. To slowly breathing down in and out as if you're doing it through the heart, and then you bring out positive emotion, which is nice. Fucking camera's there, stop it, right? Which is nice, but if you're ramped up, triggered, whatever, it's really difficult to do. And I found that out in the Great Toilet Roll Wars of 2020. I was like, oh, why isn't this fucking working? Because I've loved heart coherence for years. And I thought, oh, I wonder. So I started dicking around with different techniques because my background's kind of neurological techniques, right? So I started incorporating a couple of things to help calm the nervous system down even when it's a thing. So with that in mind, what I would do is I put my right hand over my heart, then I would tap on my collarbone, so my thumb's on one collarbone and my fingers on the other. And what this does is it allows me, it's kind of vibrating into the heart, so it allows me to connect. So I can add a stimulus, so I can feel, oh, that's kind of quite nice. I'm actually kind of vibrating past the vagus nerve, which is really important in our rest and digest. So it's relaxing.
Yeah.
And tapping on bone releases electrons back into the system, so you're kind of creating an electrical charge. Right? So remember I said earlier, when your mum and dad first had sex, your cells started to react. That was all electrical. Right, so electrical, that's what I'm doing here. And then I would add in the physiological size. So I would go as if I'm breathing out through the heart. So close my eyes as well to connect. And I like to do that.
Yeah.
I'd say for people watching this, do 10 breaths So you're breathing in and out of the heart, and then just relax, carry on breathing, tap for maybe another 30 seconds, and then focus on some kind of positive emotion, gratitude, love, joy, caring, whatever, something makes you laugh, and then you're done. And I say do that a couple of times a day, first and last thing each day, start your day coherent. So
I
that
love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Anything else that you can do? Top tips, start daily things.
top tips. Stay the fuck off social media. That's be aware of what's
Yeah, and
going
don't
on.
watch the news.
Oh yeah, definitely don't watch the news. Yeah, stay well away from the news. But social media is a little bit worse because it sneaks up on you. Because like all of a sudden it's in your face, right? Whereas the news you can switch off.
Yes.
Social media becomes more insidious because like people are sharing their shit and their outrage sharing quite a lot. So be
Yeah.
aware of when things are triggering you. And I would say find a way to release your emotions. I'm not going to say everyone come and hire me, do, but don't. But it's the more willing you are to feel an emotion, just sit with it,
Yes.
breathe through it, or work it out, however it works, the healthier and happier you'll be. Because once you can let go, then it doesn't affect your thinking anymore, right? And it's the stuff that we hang
Yeah.
on to that slowly drowns us. So
Yeah.
emotions can't hurt you. Not feeling them, that's what fucking hurts you.
That's so true. And how you deal with them can hurt as well sometimes if you don't deal with them in the right way.
Well, that's the thing. It's because people are trying not to feel them, right? So, and then eventually it
Yeah.
either explodes or they get into they're doing some kind of behaviour to try and not feel it,
Yeah.
and that's where it
I
becomes a
think you're
problem.
right. And yeah, everything you say about this modern world is not, it's not built for humans, because you've got to think as well, society, like people, a lot of people believe when you're stressed, you after a long week, you go and have a drink. Like, we've got a very odd view of how to deal with stress. So a lot of people think that's normal when it's
Yeah,
actually really far from normal what we're supposed to be doing.
absolutely. The modern world is made to exploit people. It's not made for people, right? People are a commodity essentially in the modern world, which is the long and short of it. And we are massively imbalanced in our stress. No animal is made to have prolonged stress like we do. You know,
No.
short-term stress, acute stress, and then go back to normal, great, happy days. Weird, long and long, and it goes and it goes and it goes, and that's very problematic.
Yeah, it's such a shame. It's one of these. I talk about neurogenesis a lot with people, which is
Yeah,
basically getting outside, because we're not designed to live in boxes or go around in cars. Like spending time in nature, open space, greenery, so that links in with your earthing and things like that,
yeah,
because obviously that, and neurogenesis, doing daily things like being out in nature, meditating, eat like omega-3 foods and things like that, spending time with people that you love. It's actually proven, after doing it for 30 days, a lot of people that were feeling depressed felt absolutely fine.
that's
Like, they
because
did a
it's our
big
normal
study on
state.
it.
Yeah, depression's a symptom, right? It's a symptom
Yes.
of you living the life you're not meant to live.
Yes.
In a nutshell, right? We've kind of been fooled into thinking it's an illness, like it's oh no,
Yes.
I've caught depression. You know what I mean? Like it's just a random thing, but nothing's random in this world. We've
No.
just learned to ignore the feedback or dumb the feedback down or medicate the feedback rather than actually give the feedback what it wants. And the further away we get from our true nature, the unhealthier and unhappier we become, right? And just look around you.
Yes. Yeah. I do believe, though, now that you've seen it as well, a lot of people are now turning more towards like holistic ways rather than going to the doctors and getting a prescription.
Yeah, I think that day is changing a little bit. And the thing is, I mean, doctors have their place, right? The medical system has its uses. We're not going to completely obliterate it.
Yes.
But the problem is we've been somehow conditioned, whether on purpose or not, it's by the by, but we associate doctors with health, and that's
Yes.
not what they do. There's a difference between medicine and health. They're two very different fields. Right? So if you want to get healthy, you need to learn how to get healthy, or people that are good at being healthy, right? Doctors are there to help you
Yes.
in a pinch for medical reasons, or maybe surgeries, or whatever. And unfortunately, somehow it came to a point that it all kind of got put on them, and that's not their field, right? Whereas
Yeah.
looking after our health is a very different thing. Healthcare, health and medicine, two very different things. And when people realise that, they can really start to take control of themselves. And more people are, which is good.
Yeah, I think so. And I think so more so from COVID as well. I think that's where people really started to change, where, you know, there was a lot of people that started drinking first thing in the morning, but there was also a lot of people going the other way and doing more healthy things.
Yeah,
So I think there was a good balance there. So yeah, but stress and things like that, I you know, we have to learn to deal with the modern world. We can't escape it, unfortunately. So I'll always like recommend that people, whether it's like calming the central nervous system down, whether it's learning a new mindset, whether it's getting physically fitter, like I think it's so important for people to do that, because otherwise if you don't, you are not surviving this modern world.
yeah. Helping others aren't random, right? We have to play the part in our own well-being, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I
Absolutely.
wrote my book, How to Undo the Shit the Modern World Does to Us, all those years ago.
Do you know what?
Um,
I've not read your book yet. Where, so anybody listening to this, where can you get this book?
it's on the shoppable things, Amazon. How
Amazon.
to
That's
Undo the
great.
Shit
Amazon.
the
I love
Modern World Does
Amazon.
to Us. Yeah, or Audible. I think it's like
Right.
9 years old this year, 8 years old, something like that. So things have changed a lot since then, but the fundamentals of it are still the same. It's if you're a grammar Nazi and you like good grammar, don't fucking read it. It's a grammar Nazi's nightmare. I got it properly edited by this dude, like I hired an editor, and he edited it and sent it back to me, and he'd made it all grammatically correct, and it didn't sound like me. I was like, that's fucking wrong. So I went back. Any issues that you see with grammar are not an editing issue, it's a me issue, because I was like, that's not how I fucking speak. So I changed it. He was a bit pissed off. I was like, well, it's
I
got
love
to
that.
sound
You've
like
got to
me,
be
right?
authentic, right?
Exactly, exactly.
I'd be exactly the same, mate, to be fair. People would know if it was instantly perfect, right? People would know it wasn't me.
Exactly, that's fucking AI shit, right?
Yeah, I used AI once and I thought I can't post that because it literally does not sound like me talking whatsoever.
Yeah, it's weird. And I mean, it has its uses, but I couldn't use it for writing because I have a very obvious voice, right? Because I love writing and it's obvious as me. Somebody did this the other day though, because I wrote a post and then the next day, what they'd done is they'd obviously run my post through Chat GPT and edited it here and there, but they're even like literal phrases which I'd used the day before, the structure of it. I was like, did that just happen? So I made it. Somebody like copied me. So that was good. Yeah, amazing. But it just feels weird and clunky also because I knew the original post because I wrote it.
Yeah,
And they didn't even like the original post. That was a bit rude, but you know, whatever. If I inspired somebody, then cool. I'm good with that.
yeah, that's it. That's it. So it's one of those things where if somebody's listened to this, because some of it sounds very complicated, and I suppose it is. I suppose if you start Googling heart coherence and all the breathing and things like that, Google can be quite overwhelming at times because you get different websites saying different things and everything like that. So I recommend people like following you and asking you questions and things like that, because if you think about it, you have to unlearn what you've learned already of how life should be and learn like what you teach, because it can be a bit of a minefield, isn't it? but you explain it really simply.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, the health side of things isn't really my thing anymore. I do still do it. The emotions is my baby. That's my love. Mine's, that's what I love to do, is help people release trapped emotions because it affects
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, definitely. I'm always up to help people out. That's the aim of the game. Part of it, right? But yeah,
Okay,
that's for
so
me.
you've got your book. Where
Uh-huh.
can people find you on social media? You're on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram to a lesser degree.
I
To an
always
even
forget
lesser
about
degree.
Instagram.
Yeah, to an even lesser degree, TikTok. Um,
I always forget about TikTok as well.
yeah, I do. Well, because I love writing. I've been doing more videos recently since I've gone nomadic, since I've been living my traveling life. I've started filming it a bit more. Um, I say since I've been living, it's only been a few fucking
Amazing.
weeks.
So what? So you're in Turkey at the minute, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. What
exactly.
spurred the travelling on then? Did you have enough of COVID?
No, well, it's weird. I've kind of wanted to do it for a long time, but I never thought that I could. But over the years, as I've let go of more unprocessed emotions and things that I believed about myself, my own capabilities, it kind of opened up. And I've got this thing. So just here, you see this little heart there. So follow
Yeah.
me, follow my heart. It's there. I've also got beetroot
Yeah.
there, so that this is my guidance, right? So I can't run away from myself. I can always see it. So if I want to fuck up out, oh shit,
Right.
I follow my heart to the end, right? And one day my heart flashed up. You need to go nomadic. And I was like, oh, do I have to? And my heart's like, yes. I was like, oh shit, now I've got to deal with it. But I had to do it. So I had to clear all the emotions in the way, and it kept saying yes, yes, yes. So that was it, right? And what I realised was I'd been doing this meditation by a guy called Jesse Elder, who I love. Jesse Elder, big fan of his work. And part of this
Right.
meditation was getting yourself in a good state, remember good stuff, but then visualizing what you want in the future. So using that good feeling to project forward. And part of what the future that I was trying to build in this meditation was about living nomadic and being by the sea and all that type of stuff. And I didn't realize, I didn't even connect the two because it was kind of like a fantasy almost, right? But I was still doing it.
Right.
And I clearly programmed my subconscious to the point of my heart, okay, now. And then when I made the decision, the guy whose flat I was renting said, okay, the lease is up. Do you want to renew it? And that was like within a week of me making the decision. I was like, oh, it's got to happen now, isn't it? It's got to. Everything all kind of started falling into place. I was like, right,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm listening. So I closed my eyes and jumped. Okay, I'm doing it. And I only decided to do this February. And then within
Wow.
two
Okay.
months, I've left. I left the country 1st of April. So I'm now 3 weeks in. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just going to keep traveling for as long as I can and see what happens. Right? I'm going to be moving around Europe for now while my grand's still alive because she's not coming of it. When she goes, then I'll
Right. Okay.
go further afield. So I'm in Turkey for a month,
Yeah.
and then I'll go to Romania next month. Then I'll be in Spain for a little bit, visit my cousin. I'm looking at Kosovo. That is kind of quite interesting. And Albania and those types of places. Um, but it's really interesting. So I knew that for me to grow, I'd kind of grown as much as I could. And for me to grow, I had to put myself in a new environment because your brain makes associations to things, right? So if I take myself away from those
Yeah.
things, then those associations aren't there, and I can see, I know new things will be revealed to me, you know, by this space, and I'll be challenged in new ways. So it really kind of became a spiritual quest that I couldn't ignore anymore. I knew that I had to go if I wanted to grow. That was a fucking poem and a half, and I had to go and grow. And
I love that, mate.
yeah,
That's
that's
fantastic.
it's been
That's
amazing. It's
absolutely.
been really good. It's been really good. I'm really glad I did it. It was terrifying, but doing
Yeah.
what I do with releasing unprocessed emotions, I've got no excuse. I just have to fucking okay, move it easy, and then
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be brave enough to step and clear on the way, step and clear, and the path reveals itself as you walk it. Right? I don't know what's going to happen. If I'm going to be doing this for years, or if I find a forever home, I don't know. But I own
I
nothing
love that.
but a suitcase. And yeah.
We don't need material things, though, do we, mate? That's the thing.
Well, the good thing is my job is, you know, I can work anywhere, so that's cool. Here also, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I used to teach a little bit. And here I ended up teaching
Ah.
classes up at a local place. I was like, oh, when's your classes? And they asked me if I was a black belt. I was like, yeah. And oh, will you teach? So I ended up teaching here at a school in Turkey, which was amazing for a couple of sessions. So that's good. So I've got like things I
Wow.
can do. So
Yeah, I love that. That's one hell of an adventure.
it is an
Yeah,
adventure, isn't it?
absolutely love it.
Yeah. Is it a
Yeah,
midlife
I
crisis? I
love
don't know.
that.
But good.
Oh, just go with it. It sounds good anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people have been so supportive. It's been nice, right?
I love that. Yeah, yeah. And you're leading by example as well, which I
Well,
love.
everything I do to me first, right? And I figured that I can't
Yeah,
promote what I do or talk about what I do unless I'm really willing to fucking put my balls into it, right? If I put my money where my mouth
yeah,
is, and there's
yeah, yeah,
it don't get much bigger than giving up everything and just fucking going. You know, because I've grown up
yeah,
in that town, like my town that I'd left. I grew up there. You know, I didn't really
yeah,
know anywhere else. Right? I mean, I went other places, obviously, but I grew up in that town since I was a baby. I moved there when I was a baby, and 49 years old now. Right? I'm 50 at the end of the year, so it was a lot to leave, right? But there was a little bit of grief there for a little while. I kind of felt a little bit flat and heavy about it, and then when I cleared it, I was like, oh my god, amazing. Oh. But yeah, it's a big thing.
I love
Better.
it.
Done.
I've got one more question for you. It's always the hardest question. Everybody hates this
Oh,
one.
go for it.
Gareth, tell me 3 good things about yourself.
3 good things about myself.
Yeah.
Very patient.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. I'm extremely committed to my own unraveling, which is a positive because it makes me a better human being. You know,
Yes.
and my healing work and my own spiritual growth are so deeply entrenched together that I can't draw a line, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I love what I do and I do what I love, and it is an extension of me in that respect. Sort of say patience, that's very creative in my healing work, and committed to I'm committed to being true to
Yeah.
myself, and not lying. It's difficult because there are times to catch
Yeah.
myself up. So there is that. Um, Also, I don't take myself very seriously. So that's also very, very important.
This is good. That's good. Life can be very serious at times, and we forget that we're here
Yeah.
to live a little as well while we're here.
When people that take themselves too seriously make life unhappy for other people as well.
That's so true. That really is true. You are an absolute inspiration. Thank you so much for teaching me about earthing and heart coherence. It's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I love the work you do, that you go around de-stressing people and being an emotional laxative. Like your
Let that
work is
shit go.
so yes.
Let that shit go. Don't throw it over other people. Right?
I love that. So everybody listening to this, I really recommend that you follow Gareth, reach out to him. He's just this big ball of information that can massively help your life. So thank you so much, my lovely.